It's not the moment he leaves that breaks you. It's the moment he says something you should never forgive, and you forgive it anyway. That's the wound that doesn't bleed. The betrayal you keep alive by pretending it didn't happen. Every woman carries a memory like this. A conversation she replays alone at night, not because it was loud, but because it was quiet. So quiet, it slipped past her defenses and rewired something inside her. You didn't break because he raised his voice. You broke because he lowered it. Because he looked at you without flinching and said something so small, so casual, it was almost easy to miss how deeply it hurt. You're too sensitive. You're lucky I'm even with you. That's just how I am. Little words, offhand words, words said with a shrug. And you, beautiful and loyal, chose to explain them away. You picked up the shards of what he said and pressed them into your chest, hoping if you loved him harder, they'd hurt less. This isn't about blame. This isn't about anger. This is about the invisible moment when your body knew the truth and your mind talked you out of it. You felt it. The clench in your stomach, the tightening in your throat, the sudden exhaustion after hearing him speak. Your whole being whispered, "This isn't love." But you stayed because you wanted it to be love. Because the world taught you that patience is proof of worthiness. Because you believed in who he could become, instead of seeing who he was showing you he already is. Let me say this clearly. When a man wounds you with his words, it doesn't make you broken. It makes you awake. If you listen, forgiveness is a beautiful thing, but when you forgive something your soul knows you shouldn't, you don't heal. You fracture. Piece by piece, year by year, until one day you look in the mirror and realize the woman staring back at you is a ghost. Not because she was unloved, but because she kept loving in places she should have left. This is the beginning of a different story. A story not written in apologies you'll never get. A story not built around waiting for a man to become what you deserve. This is a story about remembering. Remembering the first betrayal that didn't look like betrayal. Remembering the words that cut you while you were still smiling. And finally, choosing to walk away from anyone who dares to speak to you like you're something breakable. This isn't about them, this is about you. About trusting the voice inside you that doesn't explain, doesn't rationalize, doesn't argue. It just knows. It knew then, it knows now, and it will keep knowing until you choose to listen. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, Carl Jung. What does it mean to accept yourself completely? It means seeing yourself without distortion, without apology, without shrinking. But many men cannot bear to face themselves like this. They fear their own emotional inadequacy, so they project that fear outward. They call their coldness honesty. They label their dismissiveness as just being real. They weaponize their truth to wound you because they can't hold the truth of their own insufficiency. And you who were built to bridge, to understand, to nurture, you take the wound and cradle it. You convince yourself that his inability to love you properly is a commentary on your value. It's not. It never was. Emotional projection is an ancient defense. It's the mind's way of surviving its own shame. He says you're too sensitive because he cannot handle the consequences of his own cruelty. He says you're overthinking because he doesn't want you seeing the cracks in his facade. He says take it or leave it because he knows deep down, if you really saw him clearly, you'd leave. There's no crime in a person being broken. We all are in different ways. But there is a crime in demanding that someone else bleed for your wounds. There is a crime in dressing up emotional cowardice as authenticity. When you hear these phrases, these dismissals, these manipulations, these minimizations, know this. Recognizing them isn't judgment. It's survival. The minute you stop rationalizing what your soul already knows, you stop participating in your own destruction. He isn't your project. He isn't your responsibility. He is a man revealing himself. Through every offhand comment, every invalidating phrase, every subtle flick of contempt. Believe him. Not who he could be. Not who he says he is. Believe what his words show you. This is not about bitterness. This is not about building walls. This is about finally, mercifully, choosing not to be the collateral damage of someone else's inability to love. Choosing to accept yourself completely, without permission, without apology. And walking away the first time your soul feels itself start to shrink. There are words that don't sound violent. but they are assassins just the same. Here are 5 phrases that should never echo unanswered in your life again. 1. You're too sensitive. When he says this, he isn't describing you. He's describing his refusal to honor your humanity. Sensitivity is not a flaw. It's the purest form of connection. When someone uses it against you, what they mean is, I don't want to deal with the reality of how my actions affect you. Stay, and you will slowly amputate your own feelings just to keep the peace. 2. I never asked you to do all that for me. This is not humility, it's emotional erasure. When he says this, he's telling you, your sacrifices, your efforts, your love, none of it holds value to me. Gratitude is the foundation of respect. Without it, love becomes a ledger you will never balance. 3. That's just how I am. Take it or leave it. There's no openness here, no willingness to grow, no accountability. This isn't authenticity. This is emotional laziness dressed up as self-acceptance. When someone tells you who they are and dares you to swallow your hurt to keep them, believe them and leave. 4. You're lucky I'm even with you. This one cuts straight to the bone. It is not a joke. It is not said in passing. It is an act of control. A way to teach you that your worth is conditional, fragile, and dependent on his mercy. Stay after hearing this, and you will spend years trying to earn something you should never have had to beg for. Basic human decency. Number 5. You're overthinking everything. This phrase is poison. It teaches you to doubt the wisdom inside you. It punishes your intuition. It conditions you to silence your gut instincts in favor of his narrative. A woman who stops trusting herself becomes easy to control. Never let anyone teach you that your intelligence, your insight, your careful heart are liabilities. You don't need another apology. You don't need another promise. You need to believe yourself the first time he makes you feel small. Picture her, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., eyes wide open, heart wide open. Blame spreading through her like a slow poison. She replays the conversation again and again. What she said, what he said, where she went wrong, how she could have fixed it. She doesn't know yet that this is the wound speaking. Not wisdom, not truth. Just grief twisting itself into self-hatred. The pit in her stomach isn't confusion, it's the compass she keeps ignoring. The part of her that is still fighting to save her. Freedom isn't won by clenching harder to someone who keeps letting you fall. Freedom is not loyalty to a story that only costs you your spirit. Freedom is self-rescue. It is standing in the wreckage of broken promises and saying, this is not my fault, but it is now my responsibility to walk away. Freedom is understanding that the longer you wait for someone to value you, the more you teach yourself you have no value unless they say so. You don't need tips. You don't need strategies. You need awakenings. When he says things that hurt your core, believe it. When he makes you question your goodness, believe it. When he calls your intuition overthinking, believe it. You don't owe him patience. You don't owe him one more conversation. You don't owe him one more night spent spinning in shame. You owe yourself rescue. Self-abandonment in love is the slowest, cruelest form of self-destruction. And every moment you choose yourself, even trembling, even unsure, you are walking home, back to the woman you were before you taught her to doubt her own magic. If you've heard these words and stayed, you are not broken. You are not foolish. You are not weak. You are human. You loved with your whole chest. You believed against the odds. But now you are being invited into a new kind of strength. A strength that doesn't beg. A strength that doesn't negotiate its own value. A strength that leaves when the words turn sharp, when the love turns hollow. If you've ever stayed longer than you should have, and you are ready to come home to yourself, declare it below. Say it out loud. Say it in the comments. Say it in the mirror to the girl who still needs to hear it. I choose myself. Let it not just be words. Let it be a vow, a beginning, a resurrection. Because you were never too sensitive. You were never asking for too much. You were never overthinking. You were seeing the truth before you were ready to live it. And now you are ready. Don't stop here. You already know the truth. The next video will teach you how to never lose yourself again, no matter who you love.